Sri Lanka Navy's approach towards disaster risk reduction by Lieutenant Commander Duminda Dayananda from Sri Lanka Navy. Aim of my presentation today is to introduce Sri Lanka Navy's role in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief and initiatives taken on disaster risk reduction. Sri Lanka is not experiencing large-scale disasters compared to other countries in the region and Asia except the one-time occurred event, tsunami in 2004. Yet significant effects from disasters observed over the years, mostly during the monsoonal seasons, supported by the topography and high population density of the country. What you can see on the screen is the major disasters affected Sri Lanka from year 2005 to 2018. What I want to emphasize here is the significance of floods. Sri Lanka Navy's role is highlighted during hydro-meteorological disasters, being the most common disasters in the country, to assist victims as part of our benign role and aid to civil power. Sri Lanka Navy traditionally deployed flood response teams to save victims during every flood event in the country. However, during the national level floods in year 2011, it is understood that the existing emergency response mechanism was seemingly inefficient to address the needs of the victims island-wide and highlighted the necessity of holistic approach for disaster risk reduction. My objective was to introduce measures to be taken by the Sri Lanka Navy for effective and efficient emergency response operations, ensuring the disaster risk reduction. Methodology. Sri Lanka Navy decided to find ways for effective and efficient emergency response operations, taking responsibility as a stakeholder in the national disaster management mechanism. Accordingly, Sri Lanka Navy approach was first to find gaps and grey areas of the existing disaster response mechanism in consultation with the national policies, plans for disaster mitigation, preparedness and response. Then to introduce new ways and means to enhance effectiveness and efficiency of every phase of disaster management cycle, targeting disaster risk reduction in palm with universally accepted principles and practices along with custom-made solutions for the local setting. As you will know, before 2015, it was the Hugo framework for action, then afterwards the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. So we follow those guidelines. Sri Lanka Navy's approach towards safer Sri Lanka. Preamble. Last phase of humanitarian operations conducted by Sri Lanka Defence Forces to eradicate terrorism from the country brought an insight into humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations of Sri Lanka Navy. Civilians used to flee away from terrorist-controlled areas using boats and some other unsecure means during the latter part of the war in 2009. Naval units engaged in handling those internally displaced personnel at sea, especially the Marine Special Squadrons of Sri Lanka Navy, ensured the safe rescue of those civilians from danger. What you can see on the screen is the transformation of a Marine Special Squadron, namely RABS, into a disaster response unit because of their experience during war as an humanitarian actors. Formation of Rapid Response Rescue Relief Unit, (4RU), is done in 2012 to swiftly engage in HADR operations. In the way towards effective and efficient rescue operation, we have understood that only rapid response or the preparedness won't do the job for effective and efficient rescue operation. For that, we need both readiness and rapid response. Steps taken towards effective and efficient emergency response operations. As I mentioned, our rescue unit 4RU has a proper command and control structure, starting from a director, commanding officer, then certain group commanders and rescue teams. So rescue team is the smallest entity comprising with 4 members. Those teams and groups are deployed in disaster identified areas of the country, as you can see on the screen. Then the establishment of Sri Lanka Navy Disaster Management Training Center at the Gangewadi Putlam, because this location of this training center is very much important in the near vicinity of the Vilpattu Sanctuary, then the Kalawa Estuary and the Putlam Lagoon. There we have flood rescue simulation site, landslide rescue simulation site, because these simulation sites are very much important in terms of training the first responders, as we can expose them to the real case scenarios. Then we have collapse structured rescue simulation site also, as you can see on the screen. Then IDP camping simulation site, there we follow the SPS standards. When I talk about the courses conducted at the Disaster Management Training Center, we have disaster management and first responder courses for the Navy, sister services, police, and the civilians. Then international life saving certification courses because our first responders are qualified, internationally accepted certifications from the International Life Saving Federation. Then small boat handling and maintenance courses. And importantly, we have specific HADR practical training modules or the sessions conducted in combination with the foreign delegations. We do conduct district level or the community based training programs for the civilian voluntary groups in consultation with the Disaster Management Center on emergency response, first aid, and life saving. This is the progress of training assistance rendered by Sri Lanka Navy in the disaster management field. Preparedness of emergency response teams is very much important. We have a concept of rescue toolbox. All the identified essential items are packed in a box, and what the rescue team has to do is only to take it away from the rescue stores and move to the disaster area. So this makes the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the operation. And we have certain checklist and reporting procedures. Checklists are very much important. It contains the contact details and the items the rescue teams carry and what other areas deployed. And reporting procedure, we normally after every 4 hours we have a certain situational report to the operation rooms and the headquarters. Then use of drone technology in emergency response operations. What we do is when our teams are deployed to a disaster location, first of all we'll have the aerial view using our drone and evaluate the situation before actually deploying our teams. Then continuous training, standard operating procedures and mock drills are conducted. Thereby we can adjust our SOPs in the end. Other measures for disaster risk reduction. Role of Sri Lanka Coast Guard as an entity under Sri Lanka Navy at present in emergency response. There we have life-saving post island-wide. Then there have some other components for oil spill management and marine pollution control. Establishment of disaster response unit. It is located in Valisar, Colombo. There we do repair works, transit stores, and safekeeping of emergency response equipment. Then research and development projects also conducted there on the DRR. DRU designed mobile kitchen and mobile RO plant. Mobile kitchen is very much important to provide hot cooked meals during a disaster for the victims and the rescue teams also. Then RO plant is to provide the healthy water, clean water for the victims, because you all know during a disaster situation the water contamination is a common case. Establishment of Sri Lanka Navy GIS unit for collection of disaster data, flood mapping, risk mapping, and situational analysis for effective and efficient deployment of first responders is done. Then let me explain something different. The establishment of Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, MRCC Colombo, at the Naval Headquarters premises to meet international obligations of Sri Lanka under Search and Rescue Convention. Maybe you are aware of the fire accident to tanker MT New Diamond in last September in the eastern seas of Sri Lanka. So MRCC Colombo effectively coordinated the rescue and salvage operation for that fire-stricken ship. Let's witness some of the disaster response activities of Sri Lanka Navy. As you all know, our first aim was to conduct rescue operations during a disaster. Apart from that, we do transfer victims to safer locations, as you can see on the screen. Then distribution of food and refreshments, cleaning of clogged bridges, culverts and canals, because this is very much important to reduce the flood effect. Distribution of drinking water as a relief service, then cleaning of wells and other water sources as a post-disaster activity, repairing of damaged houses as the reconstruction phase. Then this is the progress in brief. How many number of personnel we have rescued, transferred, and how many number of teams deployed for search and rescue. Let me explain something way forward. We have plans of increasing our naval search and rescue teams up to 250 by 2022. then achieve international standards and international recognition for Sri Lanka Navy first responders, then develop disaster management training center at Puttalam into an international level training center. This is from my side. Thank you very much for your patience.